everyone, and welcome to F-Bomb Friday. I am your host, Tracy Preston, and tonight, well, it's just me, and I'm ready. So, let's hit it! November settles over Michigan like a quiet snowfall, gentle, but full of memory. The winds that roll across the Great Lakes carry stories older than any map, older than the borders that later carved this land. These are the stories of the first peoples, the Anishinaabe, Ottawa, Ojibwe, Potawatomi, caretakers of the lakes, forests, and rivers long before the first European ship dared the shoreline. On today's episode of F-Bomb Friday, we pause the modern world, the glowing screens, the busy schedules, the endless noise, and turn our attention to voices that have echoed here for thousands of years. Their legends aren't just tales meant to frighten children or entertain around fire. They are teachings, warnings, reminders of who we are, where we walk, and what we must respect. Because the Anishinaabe country, the land is alive. The lakes listen. The forest watch. Every shadow, every ripple, every unexpected silence means something. So as we step into one of these sacred stories, remember, we are entering a world that was never meant to be forgotten. A world where powerful beings still linger just beyond the firelight. Welcome to Native American Heritage Month. Welcome to Michigan. And welcome to F-Bomb Friday. Today we go small, but not harmless. The day we trace footprints no more than a child's width in the damp banks and rocky caves that fringe the Great Lakes. We're not talking about ghosts or giants. We're talking about the little people, the Memegwesi of the Anishinaabe. They are older than any of the roads and towns they hide beside. They love children. They steal nets. They demand a whisper of respect, or they'll just make sure you never find your way home. In this episode, we'll discuss the history, traditional teachings, first-hand accounts, and a narrative walk through the woods and rivers where they are said to hide. We'll do it with respect. These stories are not just chillers. They are part of a living tradition. So lower the lights, fold your map, and listen closely. The woods tell stories to those who will hear. Most widely described, the Memegwesi are little bank-dwelling beings, sometimes called riverbank people, sometimes rock people, sometimes a type of water spirit. The word in Ojibwe appears in dictionaries and traditional lists as Memegwesi or Memegwasag. which scholars and speakers render as a kind of hairy-faced, bank-dwelling dwarf spirit. This isn't folklore dreamed up for late-night clicks. It's a named entity in Ojibwe language and recorded in Ojibwe language materials. Descriptions across communities vary, but a pattern repeats. Small stature, often reported between 1 and 3 feet tall, a body covered in hair or coarse fur, disproportionately large eyes, adapted for dim light, and a voice that some sources call a nasal whine, often compared to the creaking hum of a dragonfly. They live at the edge of human places, off the roots of fallen pines, the hollows behind cliffs, the cracks in riverbanks, caves that open to spray and mist. They are as old as the shoreline. Crucially, the Memegwesi are not a single moral type. They are neither purely benevolent nor purely malevolent. In many stories, they act as guardians, protective of children, of sacred medicines and places, of copper outcrops and river fish. In other tales, they prank, steal, mislead, or punish those who take without asking. The guiding rule: respect the place, and the little people will often return that respect. In some communities, it was, and still is, normal to toss a pinch of tobacco to the base of a strange rock, or to whisper a greeting when you pass a narrow cave. Small rituals meant to show you mean no harm. Practice of offerings and caution around certain rocks is documented in historic ethnographic sources. Some elders say Memegwesi are visible only to children, or only to certain people like medicine people. Other stories insist they can be seen by anyone who wanders into their space at the wrong time. In one noted early ethnographic account, passing fishermen would toss a pinch of tobacco at a rock called Memegwesi Wabik, literally Memegwesi Rock, because it is believed the little folk live there and might take what you drop in the water. The same account records a local saying, if you lose something overboard, the Memegwesi will have that. The saying is old enough to have been entered into folkloric archives. Before the modern maps and steamer routes, the Great Lakes region was a language of shorelines and spiritual geography. The little people live at the boundaries, places where land meets water and where human pathways give over to the wilderness. Many Anishinaabe teachings frame these beings in cosmological terms, not simply monsters, but part of a network of spiritual beings that instruct people how to behave in the world. Stories about the Memegwesi encode practical caution, to respect the water, to tether your canoe, to not take more fish than you can share. Do not laugh loudly at sacred places. These are not just spooky punchlines. They are oral laws disguised as stories. Anthropologists and linguistic records show that the term and the stories have deep roots. Early missionary linguists and later folklorists transcribed words and sayings about the Memegwesi, noting habits, customary offerings, and the same curious dual nature across widely spaced communities. As one translation from a 19th century lexicon put it, don't be surprised if the net gets raided. The little people will rob the net. And that line appears in translated ethnographic records and demonstrates how embedded the small beings were in everyday speech. It's worth naming a distinction found in Ojibwe storytellers than later writers. The Memegwesi are bank, rock, little people, small, often hairy, sometimes visible, and often mischievous. A related category, sometimes called Memegwans, in Ojibwe storytelling and cataloging by modern Ojibwe authors, is described more ambiguously. A little person without a fixed shape, more spirit-like, often terrified of adults and drawn to children, protective and dangerous in different stories. Basil Johnson, an Ojibwe storyteller and scholar, counts variations where little people take many forms and are tied to copper and lost child lore in the old mines and shoreline caverns. These distinctions matter. They reveal a living tradition with local, fluid differences rather than one fixed monster. If you're going to step into a place where the Memegwesi are said to inhabit, here are the traditional behaviors recorded in multiple accounts, not to scare you, but to guide you. These are not superstitions meant to frighten the curious. They are etiquette for the living in a community with the unseen. Leave offerings, a pinch of tobacco, a little bread, berries for small fish heads tossed gently onto a rock. This is an acknowledgement. You see the place and you show you mean no harm. Ethnographic notes and community guidance recorded this practice repeatedly. Avoid noisy mockery, whistling at night near the shore, loud laughter at a sacred cave entrance, or throwing stones for sport. Stories say such actions are considered invitations for trouble. The Memegwesi take offense and may retaliate with mischief or theft. If you hear a child's voice alone at night, don't follow. Now, this is a recurring motif. The Memegwesi love children, are dangerous to those who chase the sound at night. Many cautionary tales tell of adults who followed a giggle and never returned the same. These function as lessons. Protect children, don't pursue unknown calls, and keep community watch. Reciprocate offerings. Show gratitude. In some communities, when something is returned, such as a lost child found, a canoe spared from rapids, people pour a libation or leave an offering to show thanks to avoid imbalance. Again, living storytellers and tribal newsletters remind us this is not a prayer to a monster, but a reciprocity. Now we move from teachings to reports. Some of these are older ethnographic notes, some are modern, oral accounts. I'll present them as they are told, not proof, but records of what people saw, what they believed, and how these stories traveled into written form. European and missionary records and later folklorists noted the Memegwesi tradition repeatedly. Notable is a turn-of-the-century item in the Journal of American Folklore, where an ethnographer quotes a Lake Nipissing Ojibwe lexicon describing the Memegwesi as a sort of sirens or water nymphs, which live in the water and in the hollow of rocks. The same piece notes the custom of tossing tobacco to certain rocks and the local saying about little people taking things lost in the water. These are not Halloween pamphlet quotes. They belong in an archive of recorded speech and belief. Many contemporary tribal communities still teach about the Memegwesi as guardians. The Saginaw Chippewa, for example, ran an educational piece honoring the Memegwesi and reminding the public about offerings, stewardship, and caution when traveling in wild places. That document frames the little people as protectors of children and medicines and stresses cultural respect. These are living instructions, not museum pieces. Across forums, local stories, and some modern retellings, and yes, some are on public websites and community message boards, you'll see recurring themes. Campers waking to laughter around their tents and small pebbles on tent flaps. Lost items returned in odd places. Panels found upright at the center of a narrow path. A child's mitten placed on a rock where it could be seen. Canoes that felt a push in the night to avoid an unseen shoal. A feeling, not a voice. People finding small carved notches in the underside of a riverbank ledge or miniature canoes of stone, sometimes attributed in a story of Memegwesi craft. These motifs show consistency, tactile mischief, pebbles, missing items, auditory sign, laughter, a whine, a small act of rescue or guidance at risk points such as rapids and shoals. The Memegwesi are said to live near rivers, caves and rock formations, remote old-growth forests, and secret places where humans rarely go. Some reported hotspots of the little people in Michigan include the Porcupine Mountains, where strange voices have been heard near the rivers. The Pictured Rocks, where stone cliffs are said to house their tiny doorways. The Manistee National Forest, where campers have reported waking to giggles around their tents. And the Sleeping Bear Dunes, where tiny footprints have been found around driftwood shelters. The deeper and quieter the woods, the more likely you're not alone. Are they cryptids or spirits? Well, that depends on who you ask. Some say they are physical beings who hide extremely well. Others say they are spirits with shape-shifting ability. Some elders teach that they are forest guardians, not monsters, but everyone agrees that they do not like disrespect. So what do they want? Above all, they want respect for the land. When humans honor nature's rules, they protect lost travelers. They guide canoeists through the fog. They help children who wander off. They leave gifts like fish or berries. But if humans take without asking, if they damage the land, if they ignore spiritual boundaries, their kindness evaporates. These little people turn dark and spiteful when angered. In their dangerous form, they steal people, especially children, cause disorientation that leads to getting lost. mimic voices to lure you deeper into the woods, bite with needle-like teeth when provoked. We walk upon a land far older than our memories, a land shaped by ice and water, the wind and the footsteps of those who came long before us. Michigan holds stories on every stone along the shoreline, in every ripple of the river, in every cedar tree that leans toward the sky. Some of those stories are written in history books, but many live in the unseen, the spiritual, the sacred. The Memegwesi, the little people of the water and rock, are not monsters or myths to mock. They are protectors, guardians of the waterways, watchers of ancient places. Their stories come from the Anishinaabe people, the first caretakers of the place we now call home. To tell their stories is a privilege, one that comes with responsibility. These are living stories belonging to living people. Many tribal members caution against mining sacred stories purely for entertainment. The point of many of these tales are to teach conduct, create boundaries, and hold spiritual knowledge. So it is with the utmost respect for the Native American peoples of the Great Lakes and across the nation that we at Malice in the Mitten bring to you this story. So if you ever feel a small stone land near your feet deep in the forest, if you hear laughter carrying across the remote riverbed, or you sense you're being watched where the cliffs drop steep into the Great Lakes, don't act with fear. Act with respect. Offer gratitude to the earth beneath and around you. Acknowledge the spirits who tend it, and always, always honor the people whose tradition keeps these stories alive. Because the land remembers, and the Memegwesi listen. So thank you for joining us tonight on F-Bomb Friday. Travel safely, treat the world kindly, and may every step you take honor the ones who stepped here first. November is National Native American Heritage Month. It is a time to celebrate the traditions, languages, and stories of Native American and Alaska Native communities, and to ensure their rich histories and contributions continue to thrive with each passing generation. We celebrate the culture and heritage of these remarkable Americans who deeply enrich the quality and character of our nation. Now, before I close for tonight, I want to let you know that Monday's Malice show is going to be a very important show. They all are. But this case, the case that we're going to talk about, is unsolved, and we need your help. We'll see you on Monday.